So if it isn't Tylenol, why is the autism exploding everywhere?
Because we stopped abandoning them in the forest.
Excuse me?
They have always been autistic people, just like they have always been gay people, people with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, etc. Know what society used to do with those people?
It's the vaccines. When my Susie got her vaccines, she changed into a different person.
Hey special family, welcome back to another fairies reaction video. I saw the funniest video in regards to autism and I figured I'd share it with you because it was so funny to me. Let's take a look.
So if it isn't Tylenol, why is the autism exploding everywhere?
Because we stopped abandoning them in the forest.
Excuse me?
They have always been autistic people, just like they have always been gay people, people with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, etc. Know what society used to do with those people?
It's the vaccines. When my Susie got her vaccines, she changed into a different person.
Much of Europe used to believe in fairies.
What's that got to...
European cultures held a belief for nearly 2,000 years, first documented in the 7th century and probably originating far earlier, that a sudden change in a behavior of a child, like if it became emotionally distant, or too emotional, or if they seemed to know more than they should, or stopped being social, or started having health problems. They thought that fairies had stolen their child and replaced it with a changeling.
A what now?
And they had different methods of making sure, like shouting at it and beating it, or putting it in a pot of water over the fire until it confessed to being a changeling.
Man, have we come a long way.
Have we? Sure, we don't abandon them in the forest to return to the fairies, and we don't drown, boil, or burn them anymore. But we still talk about autism as if it is something evil that has stolen a person away.
But all that was a long time ago. It doesn't explain.
Autistic and other disabled people were dying from superstitious methods to try to drive out the changeling as recently as the turn of the last century. Funny enough, autism was starting to be identified as a medical condition not too many years after that.
So what about the last 100 years?
Us autistics went from changeling to institutionalized, to now cursed by a magic potion during pregnancy. We're always talked about like we're less than human and a burden on society. So what's really changed?
Someone said to me, oh my God, everything is autism now. Everybody has an autistic child. This wasn't the case when I was growing up. Where did all these cases come from? There might be instances of a misdiagnosis. It may be ADHD, they think it's autism. Maybe they're just growing up and there's some variables. But you know what's more than likely happening here? So you remember growing up when you had words like, that kid's weird, that kid's different, that kid's special. Maybe now we just know a little more. Now we have some education, some information about everything from gene variants to how the brain works, how the mind works, to therapies that can be supportive, that can help development. Maybe we're simply more aware. P.S. I am not discounting other environmental, etc. factors that may be causing an increase in autism. But what I am saying is, if you're comparing what you see now to what happened before, one, I don't know if you know this, but as recently as the 80s, most individuals with autism were actually institutionalized, literally taken out of society so that you wouldn't even know anything about autistic individuals. Be aware that now if you want to access services, if you want to access treatment, you often have to start from an autism diagnosis, which means there's a lot more parents and individuals actually seeking out to get a diagnosis. Because something was hidden and not seen before doesn't mean that it did not exist. Somebody's always gonna get mad. There's nothing I could do.
Autism didn't exist in my day. Back then, we would just beat the behavior out of them. Yeah, beating was the problem. It's not that autism didn't exist. It's that a lot of times, as long as people were somewhat able to control, otherwise known as mask, those symptoms, they would not want to be beaten, obviously, so they would force themselves to suppress those tendencies. They would force themselves not to flap their hands or do whatever those autistic traits were. So autism wasn't as noticeable because people were scared to be themselves, not just autistic people, but ADHD people, people with any kind of neurological difference, a lot of times would be forced to suppress those things at the detriment of their mental health at the time and especially in the future, because when we mask those traits, what happens is a lot of times what we're masking is stimming and other things that help us to regulate our nervous systems. And so when we're suppressing those things, we are putting ourselves in a permanent state of stress, which causes health issues and also causes mental health issues, which manifest later on in life and sometimes even at the time, but they get worse later on in life. So yes, beating kids was the issue, not the answer.
People who say, oh, why all the kids got autism now? Y'all are only on one side of that fence. Y'all are not on the side of the fence of all of the parents who realized that they were autistic as well because of their child. They did not realize that they were on the spectrum until they had a child on the spectrum, and then their child got diagnosed, and then they started to realize, I'll be doing that too. And then they realized, oh, this came from me. So when y'all say, oh, why all the kids got autism now? The kids are being diagnosed now. The parents had it too. The grandparents had it. Stop saying that. Majority of the people, the kids now that got autism, y'all kids is being born with autism because y'all freaking niggas that got autism because they freak better. Autistic people do everything better, but that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, the kids now got autism because y'all are procreating with men that have it.
I have said this before, but this time I want to be a bit detailed. Let me tell you 3 reasons why your child didn't have autism in Africa but now has it abroad. Number 1, lack of infrastructure, lack of resources. The child was simply not diagnosed. It's simple. Number 2, the culture of shame. You fear stigmatization. So you just didn't report it. You didn't go to the hospital. You didn't want to attach any kind of stigma to your child. Number 3, lack of awareness. A lot of people do not know anything about autism. They believe that if the child is not drooling, there is nothing wrong with the child. If the child can still run around, there is nothing wrong with the child. And there are so many children who are constantly slapped into oblivion, who are constantly abused, who have autism. The parents just believe that if we hit her, if we hit him, the child will start to do better. This child is naughty. If you're strict with the child will start to get better. A lot of people don't even know what autism is. There is a lot of misconception about autism. That a child can still run around, feed themselves, doesn't mean that a child is not on the autism spectrum. And I think that we need to start to create more awareness about this. Read it, Google it. There are loads of great people who are living with autism. Some of the greatest people in the world are living with autism. I don't like it when I hear people say, my child didn't have autism in Africa, they now have it abroad. If they were not diagnosed, then you wouldn't know that they have it because you wouldn't have a name for it. And I would usually excuse people who left Africa with a baby who had autism, and then the baby gets abroad and then gets diagnosed and they say, oh, my child didn't have it. So I would excuse such parents. And I might excuse first-time parents also. If it's your first child who has autism, you might not know. But if it's not your first baby and you're 3 years old, isn't pointing, okay, isn't making gestures, cannot keep eye contact, cannot hold a conversation, has speech delay, prefers to play on their own, do not have any interest in playing with peers, then deep down within you, you know that there is something different about this child. And then when you got abroad, you felt, okay, I feel more relaxed here. I feel the people here are more accepting. And I feel that I can get help here. Then you go for it. And then your child gets diagnosed. And then you probably call people back home and say, my child has autism. And they say, I reject it for you in Jesus' name. And then they say the child didn't have autism because they didn't know the child. But you knew your child. And then they say the child didn't have autism until the child got abroad. So it's not true. If you argue that it is vaccine or some other thing, yeah, maybe that can be open for a debate. But it definitely isn't because you left Africa, okay? I even read a comment that, oh, they don't like us. That's why we get here and they get diagnosed with autism. I think we need to start to drop that victim mentality because it doesn't allow you grow. It doesn't allow you be better. You can be stagnant emotionally if you continue to go around with that victim mentality. Just something I wanted to shed some light on. Cheers.
It's the magic potion during pregnancy called Tylenol for me. But I digress. I guess we still can't get to what the root cause is. So As I see these videos come, I will share them with you. I have some more to what the root cause of autism is. We're not there yet. These videos are really to tell you to be aware. Take what benefits you, leave what doesn't serve you. Don't take everything at face value. Do your own research so you too can be on top of things and be aware of things that are going around you. Because as of the day, we already found 4, 5, 6 causes, but no one knows really which one it is. So we'll keep our eyes open and we'll bring it to you as they come. But she has some good points though. Catch you in the next one. Bye.